Good day, everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to yet another episode of OKEx Talk Show, brought to you by OKEx Africa. So you know how we do it every week. Saturday, by this time, we talk about what is happening in the blockchain. It's a very interesting program about blockchain, cryptocurrency, and how you can leverage it to creating innovation and wealth, and some of the things that are happening in the ecosystem. So amazingly, today we're going to be discussing how developing nations can leverage blockchain technology to achieving their potentials. So we know that most developing nations, they have a great potential. So we're going to be looking at how they are going to be using blockchain technology. This blockchain that we've been talking about, that it plays a major role in different sectors. So just sit back. I'm your anchor for this show, Liu Chamoheri. So sit back while we gradually unfold what we have, the pack we have for you guys today. So let me welcome our host. He's not here, Mr. Paul Aflukwe, who is Business Development Team Lead, OKEx Nigeria. So I have our amazing guest for today's, for this nice show, in the person of Lavina Ramkinson. Lavina.
Lavina Ramkisen, chairperson, advisor, conscious creator. She's among top 100 women in leadership. She's a woman with a vested blend between multidisciplinary, multi-sector, and multi-technology. Lavina is an artificial intelligence strategist and trailblazer personality. Stands for the unification of the African space. She is a conscious tech force with expertise in technology, psychology, and economics, coupled with integration into artificial intelligence, blockchain, and ethics and art. This friendly neighborhood tech creator roles as chairperson, director, and across multiple industries, sectors, and technologies, aiming to unlock the potential of the African artificial intelligence arena, humanizing technology and actively serving as a growth enabler for tech talent. Lavina is a force to be reckoned with. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome this dog in the
You're welcome to the show.
Thank you so very much for having me.
Yeah, it's our pleasure having you. You're welcome. So how is South Africa today?
It's actually been quite a nice summer spirit today all around. And how about Nigeria?
Very warm today. So we are enjoying a very beautiful weather. We are still in the rainy season, but it was very warm today here in Lagos State, Nigeria. So thank you very much once again. So for our audience, you know how we run it on this show. If you have questions for our guests, you can get them ready when we get to that station. We'll be able to take your questions. So rather you can follow OKEx on their socials. Follow Twitter at OKEx Africa, and also on Telegram, OKEx Africa. So we'll go for a very short break. When we return, we'll kickstart the show proper. We'll be right back.
Stuju Kaka. I'm the founder of InCrypto. I'm a cryptocurrency trader, blockchain consultant, and I'm one of the OKEx partners in Nigeria. I've been using OKEx since 2018. My experience of using OKEx has been fantastic. The platform is safe and secure for traders. The user interface is really clean. There were so many challenges that I was having with other exchanges that are not found in OKEx. OKEx is one of those platforms where you can trade with peace of mind. Take, for example, the trading volume. OKEx trading volume is really legit. Their listing criteria must be really good because you won't find those shit coins, that are just out there to scam you. I would recommend OKEx to other people because of the security of the exchange. OKEx is one of those exchanges that has never been hacked.
we are having some challenges over here playing that video. So we'll rectify it and play it back again. So in the meantime, let's dive straight into the show. What we have today, talking about how developing nations can leverage blockchain technology to achieve their potentials. So I would like to hear from you when we are talking about potentials here, being able to know that these developing nations, when we talk about developing nations, I know for some people look at Africa. I know there are other developing nations outside Africa. So what are some of the potentials that you think that these developing have?
I love this question, Lee, and the reason for that is one, we've got to first understand what is a developing economy. A developing economy is one that is generally has a very high population growth rate, one that has a high unemployment rate, one that is very much dependent on exports in terms of their private or primary commodities. And then we have a low capita of real income. And that generally is the definition of a developing sort of nation or economy. And for me, the potentials are definitely indicating all of that. So, we have very much a fast growing economy, and that which is backed by a lot of youth. And for me, that then indicates or translates into having income that can be achieved at a much faster, higher rate. And therefore, by default, it actually increases future spending. So, the benefits or the potential benefits of developing nations are, lessening, the unemployment. It's being able to lessen child labor. It's, able to actually access new markets. It's there to actually increase investment capital, right? And I think the overall outcome of that is the life expectancy of anyone.
Okay, talking about the potentials of these developing nations, we're saying that when you talk about developing nations, most especially look at most African countries fall into that category. I know some other part of the southern part of America and some part of Asian countries fall into categories into this category. So you've been able to see some of these evolutions past. We've seen in the tech sector, technology coming in play, and also Africa or developing nations didn't leverage this to advance or to getting their potentials. How do you think, when you're talking about these potentials, how do you think they can leverage it? And secondly, you could be able to understand that most of these nations that are developing natural resources in abundance, and they are still developing. For example, Africa hosts more than 80% of the world resources and on this category. So how do you think they can be able to leverage, I'm not going to go straight. How do you think they are going to be able to avoid what happened in other segments, like when we had the tech boom, the internet age, and the rest of them, which they didn't leverage? What are the things you think they should do not to avoid let this one elude them?
Yeah, I love that question as well. And, for me, it has to do around governments, private sector, and you as a citizen. And generally, when we have to implement or take a look at what we need to encompass, I think, having the correct kind of policies and frameworks and regulation is absolutely fundamental. In terms of us as a digital citizen, I think we need to be really empowered. We need to know where exactly and what exactly our technology is going to enable or disable us from. And, when we talk about private sector, I think private sector can play a huge role in terms of, investments, in terms of access to market, and hence the exponential growth that everyone's talking about or looking forward to from an African perspective.
Okay, talking about that, some people may be able to be asking, we are talking about blockchain technology, and a lot of people will be, I know there have been a lot of definitions when it comes to what blockchain technology is all about. And most people, when you talk about blockchain technology, the first thing that goes into their mind is cryptocurrencies and all the rest of them. NFTs, that is still a buzzword now. These are things that go into people's mind. So what are some of the, how would you define blockchain technology, and what are some of the potentials that blockchain itself has?
Yeah, I think that is one of the largest misconceptions, to date, is that blockchain is crypto, and it's really not. So, if we have to take a really good look at what blockchain is, if you think of an anchor, an anchoring chain that ships have, it's literally a chain that's linked to another chain that literally extends to a particular length that then has some form of grounding, right? Now, when we talk about blockchain in itself, it's very much something that each block is literally encrypted. It literally contains all your information about a transaction that has occurred. So the kinds of information that it contains is, the time of the transactions, who the parties were, and the actual amount, or the record of what was actually transferred between them, right? And that is literally what we then call in accounting terms a ledger, right? So blockchain in itself is literally a recording system. If you think of the largest library in the world, where you can keep a record of every single thing that has happened to date, that is in itself a blockchain sort of definition. It is literally a system that is very difficult, really impossible to actually change, crack, or hack, right? So it is something that brings about a lot of transparency, a lot of security, and a lot of accountability to a very traditional sort of way of doing things. So we've seen these applications sort of come through in terms of smart contracts. We've seen it come through in terms of cybersecurity, IoT devices, cryptocurrencies, and one of the things being NFTs. So I hope that gives you a bit of a good understanding around.
Yes, that's a very good, it's good that people understand that we keep saying what a blockchain is and getting it from different angles and different persons, how they understand what blockchain technology is. There is, when you ask a techie, there's a way he or she will define what blockchain is, and you've been able to break it down in your own way. So still talking about blockchain technology, we see there have been some debate around the convergence of blockchain technology, likes of AI, robotics, and all the rest of them. How do you think? What are some of those relationship between blockchain and other technologies? Do you think there can be a convergence of blockchain and other techs like AI and robotics?
Yeah, this question excites me quite a lot because it brings the love of AI and the love of blockchain that I have, into from both the worlds into a merged world. So absolutely, if we can think of blockchain, as we just said, as something that is very collaborative and very secure for actual data sharing, something that is there for trustworthiness, and being able to securely transfer something from one end to the other. So if we keep that in mind and we understand AI models are there generally that are used to analyze, to classify, to make predictions of data. And the two really have a good relationship or a start of a beautiful friendship, to sound really cheesy and quote a movie. But, you literally have blockchain who hosts all of these data. And then you have AI that sits on top of it that then starts to analyze and apply meaning to where and how, and just making more sense around what data should be. So those insights that everyone is looking for is definitely an area, that, we could definitely find good use. An example of both the worlds merging, if I could, is around digital identity. Now, digital identity, and what does that actually mean? Digital identity for anyone is your ID in the digital world. So if we think about it in today's terms, in the real world scenario or the physical world, we have an ID document. That ID document is a number that is attached to who we are, when we were born, what time we were born, what our credit status is, what our loan applications are. It gives us a good history of the kind of things that make up us in the financial world. So if we take that and we apply that digital identity not only to the finance industry, but we could even go beyond that in terms of the coolest latest thing called the metaverse, right? So, your digital identity has to be something that also comprises the entire history of who you are and what you actually do within the digital space. So, that is something that nobody has yet gotten right, but many have come close to it. So it is definitely going to be quite an interesting space to watch. We've obviously seen sections of digital IDs coming about where we can have a medical ID, or we can have a crypto ID, or we can have a financial ID, or we can have, all of these different things spread across. But what we're talking about is one ID. So no matter where you go and no matter who you engage with whichever industry, you have that one ID that you literally carry across the spectrum. So for me, that was quite a nice use case that I came across. Another sort of nice merge that I see between blockchain and AI is, artificial intelligence has obviously brought about a lot of ethical concerns that we've then surfaced. Those ethical concerns consist of things like biasness, fairness, transparency, accountability, and blockchain actually solves some of them, and hence it eradicates some of those ethical concerns that we may have.
Interesting. It may eradicate some of the ethical concerns that we may have. That's very interesting to know. So in case you're just joining us, this is OKEx Talk Show, brought to you by OKEx Africa. So today we're talking about how developing nations can leverage blockchain to achieving their potential. So it's very an interesting discussion that we're going on with our amazing guest, Lavina, who has been helping us do justice to this particular topic. So remember, you can drop your questions if you have any on the comment section. We'll be able to pick them when we get to that. Right about now, we'll go for a short break. When we return, we continue with some of the questions that I have here. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
CNETv, the first and leading 24/7 live broadcasting blockchain, cryptocurrency, and FinTech TV application. On our mobile app, you have access to our latest news updates, ranging from esports, fintech, iGaming, blockchain, cryptocurrency, and artificial intelligence. We bring to you interviews, analyses, cryptocurrencies, market reviews, and download our app today from your iOS or Google Play Store or on our website at CNETv.io. CNETv, objectivity is our watchword.
So welcome back. We went for a very short break, so due to some issues, that video was not playing very well. So we're still working on that over here in Nigeria. We have some network issues, right? So we're still managing an alternative network here. So if you're in Nigeria, you know what I'm talking about. So I'm sorry for that. So let's continue with the show. So let's look at some of the potentials itself, how will I put it, the potentials of blockchain, how the advantages and disadvantages. It seems that people talk more about the advantages of blockchain technology and they forget to carry along the disadvantages that are associated with blockchain, or is there none associated with it? So what are some of those advantages when it comes to this topic of blockchain and disadvantages?
Yeah, so I think, the advantages are definitely something that has been spoken about, if not really spoken about. I think it's become a core focal point for many. So we know that blockchain brings about a decentralization of a network. What does that mean? Decentralization means that no one particularly owns that network. Which means a lot more inclusion and a lot more democratization of what needs to happen within that decentralized environment. We know as an advantage, there is a lot of transparency because every record is kept and anyone can pull up that record at any point in time. We know that it's very trustworthy because it has shown a lot of reliability in terms of proving its trustworthiness and in terms of proving its transparency. Another one is that we know that it's unalterable. So that means we cannot change it. You cannot go in and delete it. It's not like the old system, of how files can be manipulated within a normal sort of computer environment. We also do know that it's very indestructible. That means it's very much something we can rely on, right? And it's not going to be easily destroyed. So those are the very much spoken about advantages. However, there are the disadvantages. And of late, we've probably only really heard about one in particular. And that one that has largely been spoken about has been around the high energy consumption, right? Or the high energy dependency. Okay, so there have been many papers that have been written for proving that blockchain technology actually requires a lot of energy to be run on. So high mainframe systems, whereas there have been equally some papers that have been written that prove that it actually doesn't consume as much large amounts of data. So I think the clarification in this really comes in is what is the use of the blockchain system? So if you're using the blockchain system to actually mine cryptocurrencies, yes, that takes up a lot of energy, right? But if you have a normal blockchain system that is being used for smart contracts or other things, then it doesn't include the mining aspect. So it's not as high, and therefore it still becomes viable. So again, it always has to do with application and how we actually go about, utilizing it within our environments. So that would be the first one. The second one is definitely around the difficulty in processing integration. What does that mean? That literally means that we have very little industry knowledge, experts, right? And, all of what's happening at the moment is highly focused around cryptos. But blockchain actually spans far beyond cryptos, as we've explained earlier on. So, that process of integration into all different sectors becomes really difficult because those sectors themselves need awareness, education, and also the skills. And that brings me to the third point. And that third one is the implementation is definitely comes at a high cost. It comes at a high cost because in place, implementation is very difficult and unknown. And added to that, there's a shortage of skills. So those are the sort of advantages and the disadvantages when we look at the holistic picture of blockchain. And I know you touched on, what are some of the potentials that blockchain can actually then utilize? Is that something you'd like me to kind of delve into now?
No, you get please. You can go ahead.
Okay, great. So, when we talk about leveraging, that means it has to be to our advantage, right? And it has to give us something that's very tangible. So when we talk about financial inclusion, we've all heard the word financial inclusion. What does it actually mean? It means that blockchain can actually effectively, positively help developing countries. How can it do that? It can help us in terms of reducing fraud and corruption, right? It can help us with legal transactions being processed and being very transparent, right? One large use case that we've seen a very good uptake within the African continent, including investments in this area, has been around the fintech space, where we see that the unbanked individuals getting into the banked environment without the necessary process of following the traditional sort of banking environments or methods. So financial inclusion is definitely one potential. Another potential that we could talk about is the citizen inclusion, right? And citizen inclusion, what does that mean? That you could have fairness for electronic voting. And God knows that within the African context, there's a massive difference, right? Where a lot of the political agendas become making us the smart citizen, another value add in terms of the citizenship. So what does that mean? That means don't have passports or IDs are still being included in the normal socio-economic activities that carry on within an economy. Okay, so we've said two thus far, financial inclusion. So there's another two that I would particularly like to talk about. One is the medical inclusion. And this is something I think we all can relate to in terms of the pandemic that we've all gone through in the last 2 years or so. And can lead to things like your clinical trials being expedited of time. So traditionally, clinical trials took anything between 5 years or more. So we've seen that within a very short space of time, through the use of AI and blockchain, we were able to then utilize and come up with a vaccine for the pandemic within a year and a half. Okay, there are definitely around whether or not it's of great quality or not, but here we're focusing on the technology part. So when we talk about medical inclusion, it's that. What else does it mean? It means that those that cannot afford normal healthcare do get included in systems that are already existing and in place. It means that we can start focusing a lot on personalized medical care. And how exactly can we talk about genomics and mapping of our geo in context, right? This is something that hasn't been done. I think it is only about 2%, right, of the African DNA or that have been saved today. So that in itself is a huge area. Once we start understanding who we are, then we can easily treat ourselves accordingly. It means the time to actually diagnose a patient becomes so much reduced to the normal traditional method, right? Therefore, it would not cost hospitals and clinics, no governments fees as they are right now. The last one that I'd like to talk about, security inclusion. Security inclusion is when we talk about cybersecurity. And this is a lot of attention in the next over the next 5 years. So, as we gravitate more and more into this digital world, or, sort of the phase between the physical and the digital environment, cybersecurity becomes so crucial. You literally walk your digital identity wherever you go, spaces, not the web, right? So one has to become very wary and very much alert in terms of what you need to do. So those are the four that kind of real good impact and potential. So thank you for that question.
Okay, you've really done justice to that particular subject. When you talk about potentials of blockchain, you're going to look at other areas that blockchain can be applied, like you really mentioned, medical sector, that's the healthcare sector, which is a very vital sector when it comes to human life, and also other areas. So when you look at these potentials, and you see that most of these nations in Africa, they have natural resources. Here in Nigeria, we have a good amount of oil and other natural resources. In Ghana, they have gold, and I know in South Africa there will be other natural resources there. Would you like to shed more light on how blockchain can be applied in these sectors that you've been able to mention? How or what step? Most especially, let's look at the agricultural sector. We know how vital this sector is, and most nations are ignoring this sector. What are some of these potentials that blockchain has, or how can maybe a brief practical step on how blockchain technology can be applied in some of these sectors?
I love this question because for me, it's always the tangibility, right? How do we actually gain value the technology? And you chose quite a nice one, which was agriculture. And agriculture is something that you can take from the time it's a seed and being planted into the ground onto a blockchain environment, utilize it, all the way through and track it until it reaches your doorstep and you consume it. So that whole value chain of it growing into a plant, of it knowing what diseases it hasn't had, or the weather conditions that it was prone to, and the complete environment, right, that it actually grew up in. Things like, understanding how much of nutrients is in the actual plant. So for each seed that we plant, we can now actually start determining the complete nutrients that we'll be able to and absorb from it, right? So we know that each seed will develop very individually, but this way, what is the most optimal environments for it? But once you grow it and harvest it, it's still all the way into that supply chain, right? Supply chain would include, the big names of the retail industry. It'll include the logistics. Further broken down, you would then take it in terms of consumption and purchasing it from a store. So when we physically walk into a store and then take it off the shelf and come home and cook it, is what we mean by tracking something from beginning to life cycle. And that becomes particularly important, especially within the African context, given the fact that we have a prediction that within 8 years or 9 years, we are actually going to importing a lot of our food within Africa. Sit back and, just like I did, and think, why? Because, it doesn't make sense. We have a lot of rich land and we have potential. But again, it's how we actually start applying it, right? And how do we optimize on it? So as we start merging ourselves into more of a real-time environment, it becomes more crucial to know how to distribute food. So for example, if we understand what that supply chain, a government then can determine if they have an over surplus of certain foods, sell it, or they can have an under surplus of due to a drought, and they know that upfront, and therefore they can then accordingly. Not only that, they can then redirect that food to countries that actually need it. So, this whole wastage and food waste talk about becomes so small of an issue. So some other industries that we could talk about is definitely the insurance industry, where smart contracts is a huge one. Another one is the IoT environment, devices and that being able to be tracked and monitored real time, all the time, on a secure platform where everything then becomes interconnected. So imagine a world where all cameras are actually integrated. Imagine a world where all electrons are connected with each other. You can start imagining mass and the magnification of how we can actually utilize it, right? Another we've obviously known and have spoken about a lot is the fintech space, basically around the arts and culture. Arts and culture is something that is gaining a lot of popularity at the moment, and it's largely as NFTs. And arts and culture is not only about the artists, it's about the musicians, it's about words. This is a lot more in terms of the cultural aspect of just normal traditional arts. And this is an area where royalties and the traditional system of how things were done actually becomes so much more transparent, because you have smart contracts together with the production houses, and things become within the industry, and tracking how many times an artist's song gets played becomes so easy on a blockchain environment. And one of the last I'd like to share is probably around the gaming industry. This is yet a sector that needs to pick up a lot of traction and momentum on it. But yeah, it's definitely one to look out for.
Yeah, interesting. The gaming sector is a very nice one. I know in America, people are looking towards that sector very well, and also looking on how to using blockchain technology to improving that particular sector. A lot of things are happening there. So talking about blockchain technology, you relate it to cryptocurrencies and the likes. So just let's briefly look into our central bank digital currency, which people know as CBDC. So I know we see Nigeria looking towards that direction. South Africa is making some research on that. We see Western countries as well looking towards that direction. What are some of the potentials you see when it comes to blockchain, when it comes to CBDC with blockchain technology? One, do you think is the right time for most of these developing nations to jump in? And what are some of the potentials the CBDC has? Can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me?
My name is Toju Kaka. I'm the founder of InCrypto. I'm a cryptocurrency trader, blockchain consultant, and I'm one of the OKEx partners in Nigeria. I've been using OKEx since 2018. My experience of using OKEx has been fantastic. The platform is safe and secure for traders. User interface is really clean. There were so many challenges that I was having with other exchanges that are not found in OKEx. OKEx is one of those platforms where you can trade with peace of mind. Take, for example, the trading volume. OKEx trading volume is really legit. their listing criteria must be really good, because you won't find those shit coins, that are just out there to scam you. I would recommend OKEx to other people because of the security of the exchange. OKEx is one of those exchanges that has never been hacked.
So welcome back, Lavina. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Yeah, did you get the question that I asked?
Yes, I did. Absolutely.
Okay, go ahead, please, about the CBDC.
Yeah, so CBDCs for me are very interesting because, it's all about this digital currency, right? And the potential of it. So, first, from a global perspective, let's understand how many CBDCs have actually been launched successfully. And to date, there's only been about 5 countries that have successfully implemented digital currency across the globe. So, in terms of Africa being part of that, where we either piloting it, developing it, or researching it, is really, really commendable. So we know that, as you rightfully mentioned, South Africa is doing research around it. We know that Ghana is implementing their digital currency. We know that Nigeria is definitely on the path of that. We have. So imagine an environment that we're currently in. We have so many different payment systems, right? We have so many different options in the world today. But all of this is still a very expensive exercise. What does this mean? This example, if a miner, is transferring from one African state to another African state, he loses money along the way to his family. So, for example, if he's based in Africa, he would then convert to US dollars or to another currency, and then retransfer into his local currency for his family to then utilize. So that's probably about 3 that we could think of. But in that 3 options that he's gone through, it probably exchanges about 100, sort of exchanges for this to be able to happen almost instantaneously, right? So because of it, the benefit of what I transfer. So I transfer $10 to Lee. Lee is going to get $10. Thing that actually happens in between. There's no need for exchange of currency. There's no need for, waiting in terms of days. The sort of second area in terms of benefit for digital currencies or CBDCs as we know it, that, a person doesn't actually need to have a bank account. So this is important. This is important because, again, within the context, if we take Africa, we probably 1/3 of the potential of Africa within a bank environment. So that means there's hundreds of individuals that are sitting inside the economy, do not know how, or they have it a very, very difficult time to with the actual world, right? So this means that they brought onto a system, and whether you have a bank account or whether you don't have a bank account, it's irrespective. And because of things like biometric, it's made possible because of real-time verification of who you are. It's made possible, two-way authentication process, or three-phase or phase. So, I mean, there's a lot that's actually being done in the space right now in terms of that CBDCs can actually help stimulate, 1. 2, it can actually help provide inclusion for.
Thank you very much for that. In case you're just joining us, this OKEx Talks brought to you by OKEx Africa. So Our topic today is how developing nations can leverage blockchain to achieving their potentials. And we have an amazing guest who's been doing quite interesting thing. She has been breaking this particular topic down, explaining it very well in the person of Lavina Ramkisson. So right about now, we'll be looking towards questions from our audience. So I will just have a question, and is looking at it. It's like CBDC is something a lot of people are looking towards. A lot of people are asking, because the question that I'm seeing here is on CBDC. So you'll be able to know that people are so much paying attention and very much interested in CBDC. So let me take the question from audience here. This one is saying, does the endorsement of nation's CBDC be a good strategy for developing nations, or still a means of embezzling money? So some people, I know this question is because most especially this trust that most citizens don't have when it comes to their government, I believe. So you heard the question. What was your take on that? Did you hear me? Can you hear me? I don't. Maybe she's having some network issues. I don't know.
No, I got some parts of your question, and I think you were breaking. Question had to do with CBD and the potential of in terms of the wider picture when we talk about embezzlement, and when we talk about getting the transparency from a political perspective, political one, but also in terms of transparency for everyone within the spectrum, right? Whether we're talking sector, whether we're talking government, whether we're digital citizens. And that in itself is really important, because, having the transparency is one thing, but transfer accountability is equally important. Accountability is something I think within the African context we know very well. We probably have never been very good at execution in that, right? So being able to own accountability for something and having it publicly available, we want to see, brings very minimal sort of engagement for the traditional methods that have happened with African context, right? When the new politicians, they are younger generation. They are that who is looking for technology to be utilized as part of their solution, right? So I think in the next few sort of years, we're going to not only see the likes of the currency coming up, but we're going to see other e-voting, right? Where a lot of the campaigning gets done, the voting, a lot of even parliamentary sort of vote and executions, all of this that's going to sort of come through. Added to that, we're probably going to see what's amongst us that's going to equally have a great say, of the space as well. So I think I got your question, but I also feel free to sort of add a little bit more, or have context to it. But thank you so much for that question.
Oh, it's from the audience. Can you hear me now? Okay. Thank you very much. Our time is fast spent. Thank you very much. It has really been an amazing discussion,
Lee, are you
irrespective
there?
of the technique. Yeah, I can hear you. I'm with you. So we are rounding up. So in case you're just joining us, is OKEx Talks brought to you by
So maybe
OKEx
I'll take a
Africa.
moment or two while we're waiting for Lee to come back, and talk any other aspects. I encourage you guys to
No, we are trying to
drop a question
round up.
into
I don't know.
the chat, and I'll be to have a look at it.
Okay, so we're trying to conclude, Lavina. So thank you very much. Our time is fast spent. Some technical issues, I don't know, network from your side, finding it difficult hearing me on time. So thank you very much. I really appreciate, and also our audience and also our host, Mr. Paul Ezafluke, Business Development Team Lead, OKEx Nigeria, and also to our amazing audience who took our time to joining us. I believe you learned a lot. We've been able to understand the definitions, the explanations that our amazing guest has really given to this particular topic. So this is how developing nations, so that was our topic, how developing nations can leverage blockchain to achieving their potentials. This show will be coming your way next week sometime, same station, that's Coin News Extra YouTube channel. Thank you very much, Lavina, if you can hear me. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me, and it's an absolute pleasure as always with Lee and the CNE team. It's been really good.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll come your way next week. Bye for now.
My name is Toju Kaka. I'm the founder of InCrypto. I'm a cryptocurrency trader, blockchain consultant, and I'm one of the OKEx partners in Nigeria. I've been using OKEx since 2018. My experience of using OKEx has been the platform is safe and secure for traders. The user interface is really clean. There were so many challenges that I was having with other exchanges that I found in OKEx. OKEx is one of those platforms where you can trade with peace of mind. Take, for example, the trading volume. OKEx trading volume is really legit. Their listing price must be really good because you won't find those shit coins, that are just out there to scam you. I would recommend OKEx to other people because of the security of the exchange. OKEx is one of